Hey, I'm Carlos with HACH. Today we're going to be talking about doing a chlorine test with a DR300 colorimeter. So what we have in front of us is some reagents, we've got some sample cells, and we've got the DR300. I've also got some sample here that's chlorinated because we're going to be doing a chlorine test. So I'm going to prep the reagents and the sample first, and then we'll walk through the test. So the first thing I want to do, I've got some brand new sample cells here. So I want to make sure, whether they're brand new or not, I want to make sure that I clean them out very well so I don't have anything that is impacting my result for chlorine. So first I want to do 3 washes with deionized water, and then I'm also going to wash the cap. So I'm going to do that over here, 1, 2, and 3. So now I got a good prepped sample. I have a chlorinated sample right here. So I'm also going to wash at least a couple of times with the sample. So in case I have really low levels of chlorine, the deionized water doesn't act as some sort of diluent to dilute the number. All right, so now I've washed everything out. I'm going to pour a sample in here, and I am going to want to get it up to a line that's 10 milliliters on the side. So it doesn't have to be super precise. This isn't a Class A volumetric device, but you do want to get it to that line and not too far above it, and definitely not below it. So first thing I'm going to do is put the cap on. I'm going to get a Kim wipe. These are nice if you're in a laboratory or even in a field setting because they don't scratch things and they tend not to leave fibers on the glass, because colorimeters and spectrophotometers will always or can, especially if it's sensitive, they can pick up some particulates that are on the outside. So now I've got my sample in there. I haven't added the reagent yet that's going to react with the chlorine, and this is an important step because first we got a 0. So what I'm going to do is take the lid off of this and I am going to put my sample cell that's been cleaned, got the sample in it, and then I've wiped it off on the outside right there. I also, the sample cell is keyed just for the sake of consistency. You can line it up with this arrow right here, and then in order to minimize the effects of any light that's coming from external sources, it's not a huge deal when you're inside, but it's good to just be consistent. It's really important when you're out in sunlight. And then I'm going to turn it on. And so the first thing I need to do is 0. All right, so that's the first step. Basically, we're teaching this instrument what 0 looks like. So whatever is in your water, we start there. That's 0. Then I'm going to take the lid off. I'm going to take the sample cell out. And then I'm going to open up my reagents. So these are powdered pillows for free chlorine. And so if you can see that, we've got DPD free chlorine reagent for a 10 milliliter sample. So that's important. It's important to know, number 1, whether you're doing free or total chlorine, and number 2, that you have the right reagent for the right volume, because there's multiple different volumes of reagents that are made. So these are specific for the 10 milliliter vial. That has 10 milliliters of sample, so that's the one we want. As I'm talking, I'm kind of slapping the side of this a little bit to get all the powder down to the bottom. It's added into these powder pillows in excess, so if you don't get every little bit of it out there, it's okay. So I'm going to open that up, and I'm also going to take the top off of this sample cell, and then I'm going to make this little sort of spout by pushing on the edges so it's easier to dump the reagent in. So once I dump it in, if I have chlorine, I should see it start to react pretty quickly. And as you can see, it's already turning pink, and I don't know if you can see it very well. There's actually some powder that's down in the bottom. So I am going to shake a little bit and invert. And again, this is added, this powder is in excess. And so if you have a little bit that may be sticking down to the bottom, you want to make sure it gets dissolved, but not all of it. It's not a big deal if there's some that's still stuck to the bottom, especially if you have a pink color. What you don't want to do is agitate it and shake it really hard, because if you introduce bubbles into this, they're also going to be read as some sort of absorbance by the colorimeter. So, and you want to After you've added the powder pillow, you also want, for free chlorine specifically, you want to do the test within 60 seconds. So I've already done my 0, so I'm going to push this green button, and that is going to be the read. That is going to be what tells me what my chlorine value is. So in this case, I've got a chlorine value from the tap water sample that I have of 0.78 milligrams per liter of chlorine. Depending on what you're using this colorimeter for, what you're using the DR300 for, that may be high and it may be low. If you are interested in figuring out how much chlorine you have in your water coming out of your tap in your house, that's more than sufficient. 0.78 milligrams per liter is well above what's required by all the states that I'm familiar with. Most states require about 0.2 milligrams per liter or above. Maybe if you're chlorinating a commercial pool, however, maybe you're aiming for something much higher than what you would see in drinking water. And so you might want 4 or 5 milligrams per liter. So you may not have nearly enough if that's the case. And that's how you do a low-range chlorine test on a DR300 pocket colorimeter for chlorine.